Okay, Spike.
What's up, baby? How you doing?
All you, Black.
Hey.
All you.
Yeah,
Good
yeah.
morning, ladies. Good morning, everybody. How we doing?
Good morning.
Hi, Delroy. Thank you for joining us.
Glad to be here.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
So first off, I want to begin, Spike, by congratulating you on receiving the American Cinematheque Award. Very exciting. In January, having that upcoming. And Delroy, congratulations on being recognized by the Critics' Choice Association for their Career Achievement Award.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Also incredibly well deserved.
Bye.
So are you ready to get started?
Sure.
I'm ready.
All right, let's begin. So Spike, why did you want to make this movie?
Well, I grew up watching World War II films, New York City, Channel 5, Channel 9, Channel 11, the local New York City stations, and was always a big fan of World War II films. And once in a while, my father would come by and see me and brother Chris watch these films, and he would tell us, you know, we black folks fought in World War II. My father had bad feet, so he's not going to World War II. He's 4F. But he had two brothers, Uncle Arnold, Uncle Clarence, in World War II. They were in the European theater. They drove there was I think they call them the Red Bull Express, a bunch of black soldiers who drove the trucks for Patton's army. So, you know, that's when I first found out about their black folks in World War II because I didn't see them in the movies. And so that's really started when I was, I mean, at that time I know I want to be a filmmaker, but my father told me something I did not know because of just going by the films. And this before Jim Brown and the Dirty Dozen. We had them run for us. I mean, that made a huge impact on me, seeing Jim Brown and the Dirty Dozen.
Right.
But before that, you know, we weren't not really in there.
Right.
And so as it became a very big thing is that I finished Morehouse in May of '79. Mm-hmm. And that summer, I got an internship to work at Columbia Pictures. And in the fall, I was going to be my first semester in NYU Graduate Film School. So I was at the first screening of Apocalypse Now at the Cinerama Dome. And every time I see Francis, he like, Spikes, don't tell me that. I know you were there already. You told me that a million times already. I know. I heard you the first time. But I just wanted, that just had such a big impact on me. And in the Cinerama Dome, I never heard sound like that with Walter Merchant, this the star Vittorio Sorora's cinematography made an impact on me. And then also, you know, seeing Lawrence Fishburne in Albert Hall. You know, so that was really, you know, and we get big ups. We get love to France with this film. We shot at a club, a real club in Ho Chi Minh City, formerly known as Saigon, called Apocalypse Now. And also we use Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries. It's not during that terrific helicopter attack scene, but the boat going up the river. So for me, I mean, anytime you do a Vietnam film, automatically the big elephants in the room are Apocalypse Now and Platoon. So we had to acknowledge really Francis. You know, no disrespect to my brother Oliver Stone. I can't say nothing about Oliver's his trilogy and why it's his trilogy of Vietnam films because he was there. You know, he was there, so he has credibility. You know, I don't care what you like about the film, he was there, and so that's so when the project came, Lloyd Levin called me up and my co-writing partner Kevin Wilmot, we liked the script very much, We love the whole treasure Sierra Madre element. That's my favorite films. Directed by John Huston.
Right.
Darn Bogart. So a whole lot of things just happened. And Kevin and I knew automatically that, we could switch this up. To quote a line from Bugging Out and Do the Right Thing, we can put some brothers on the wall. Put some brothers on the wall. Sal, put some brothers on the wall. And then another big element was Marvin Gaye.
That's right. He plays an integral role. The music in this movie plays a role in the film.
Well, music's always played a role in my films. But Rolling Stone recently reevaluated their 500 albums. I mean, but the first list, What's Going On, was number 6. But this new list, What's Going On is rightfully at the rightful place it should be. In my opinion, numero uno. So the album came out in 1971, at the height of the Vietnam War. A lot of people do not know that Marvin's older brother, Frankie, did 3 tours of Vietnam. He's a radio operator. And he was writing his younger brother, Malcolm, his younger brother. I look at Delroy, I get Malcolm X flashbacks. Listen, Archie, I just, and his brother, his brother was writing him. So Marvin is getting these firsthand accounts of the horror of the war. Plus, he's in Detroit, Motown, seeing these brothers come back from the war.
Right.
Some in coffins, on heroin, drugs, or maimed, post-traumatic syndrome, which was, they didn't even have a term for it then. So all those elements were the basis of one of the greatest albums. Okay, forget about the ranking. One of the greatest albums ever. And in actuality, that was the album these bloods were listening to. Played by Hanoi Hannah in Vietnam.
Can I ask something really, really fast? Because Hanoi Hannah made me think of the Warriors.
Well, I love that film too, but Hanoi Hannah is a real life historical figure. That is not made up. And I did a film, my first war film was a film called Miracle St. Anna, about the Buffalo soldiers, the black soldiers, the 92nd Division, that fought in Italy against Mussolini's fascists and Hitler's Nazis. And they had a figure, a co-part to Hanoi Hannah. Her name was Axis Sally. And she was American. She was born in Cincinnati. And then in Japan, in the Pacific Theater, you had Tokyo Rose. So first, Tokyo Rose, Axel Sally in World War II, and Hanoi Hannah in Vietnam. And the purpose is this: demoralize the American troops. They would play popular American music, which the troops loved to hear, and in between the songs, they would say propaganda. And in both cases, specifically in my 2 films, the propaganda that Hanoi Hannah and Axel Sally was speaking specifically to black soldiers, that propaganda was not really lies. Axel Sally and Hanoi Hannah was saying, black soldiers, why are you dying for a country that doesn't love you? Why are you doing that?
Very powerful. Very,
I want
very
to ask, it's an incredible, powerful message. And I want to, you and Delroy have worked together several times throughout your career. So did you have Delroy in mind for the role of Paul when you were writing?
Yes, and yes, and here's the thing though. I did not know until my brother told me the last time we worked together was 25 years. I was like this.
Now,
I was thinking.
yeah, and
My mind was working, and I'm trying to tabulate the mathematics of the math. And I was like, oh my God.
now
But it
you
didn't seem that long.
yeah, it's
And look, we gotta let Delroy talk too, but
Yeah.
for me, it was like we worked yesterday. It did not seem 25 years ago. Delroy, why don't you pick it up, my brother?
No.
Yeah, time flies, but Delroy, you know, and Spike, you touched on this with, you know, the film deals with intense subject matter such as post-traumatic stress disorder, which is what Delroy's character Paul is battling, and there's this strained relationship that he has with his son, and he happens to be a Trump supporter. So Delroy, can you talk a little bit about how Spike convinced you that you were the man for the role and the
I did not convince.
You didn't convince him.
Before my brother, Mr. Lindo, answered the question, let the record state, I did not convince him.
Okay.
So,
Delroy, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your process and how it came to be and how you prepare to play the role of Paul and how you ultimately get the audience to empathize with him.
all right. So before I answer your direct question, I just got to say, as I was listening, Spike, to your response to the opening question, I'm sitting here and I'm receiving, listening to all the information that you are packing into that, I don't know, 5-7 minute response, which
It might have been longer.
which contain historical references, cinematic references, cultural references, social references, and historical. What's I mean, I sound like some silly social scientist right now, but what's interesting about that is that though all of that information that you're imparting, Spike, is indicative of, on some level, Spike's his oeuvre, his filmography. Because when you look at the investigation in each project, the depth of the investigation, the directions that the investigations take, if you put all the films together, it is indeed kind of sort of encyclopedic. And that's what I was witnessing as I was listening to Spike speak. To your question, my first response is your question of, why did I take the part and did Spike need to convince me? He did not need to convince me, per se. I needed to convince myself. The fundamental, the jumping off point, the point of departure for me is, and I've really come to this realization in the various in the months that we've been discussing this film and doing these kinds of meetings with Spike and the cast. In terms of my responding to taking this part, I think at this point in the proceedings, in terms of the work that Spike and I have done together, my inclusion in his films, I automatically know that when my agent says Spike is trying to get a hold of you, he wants your number. He already had my number, but I said, I think he has it, we give him this number. And when he called me and said, I'm doing this project, The answer was already yes. Now, I didn't say that to him, and he didn't say that to me per se. He said, I'm sending you a script, read it, and let's talk. But already I have this awareness as it relates to every film that I have done with Spike, 25 years or no 25 years, and I'll speak about that in a second. But I have this awareness that, as I said to a journalist 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I'm batting 1,000 with this cat. I've never, ever been in a project that did not speak to me culturally, historically, creatively. Never. So the answer is kind of, sort of already yes. The convincing had to do with me convincing myself that I could present clearly a very pained and tortured human being, but in the final analysis, a relatable human being. And if I present a relatable human being, that's when I'd like to believe the film, the narrative overall, and my participation in the narrative is connecting and touching the audience.
Now, I understand too that Spike often gives you the opportunity, like if you're compelled to do or say something in the moment when you're shooting, he sort of allows you that time to investigate the character as long as it moves the story forward. Are there specific examples in The Five Bloods where something occurred to you on the spot that you...
Can I just jump in real quick?
Sure.
I'm going to allude to sports. Phil Jackson had the greatest player in the world on his team, Michael Jordan. Jordan had the green light. Dennis Rodman did not have the green light. Delroy had the green light. Not everybody gets the green light. They just do what they got to do.
Right, right. Are there moments, there's so many intense scenes in the film. Were there particular scenes where...
Yes.
Yes. How to say or do something? Can you give us some of those examples?
Yes. So, I'm just listening to, Spike allows me a certain kind of green light as long as the story is being fed and informed. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, on some level, the next time Spike and I work together, and I hope there is a next time, and I hope
I will. Don't even worry about it.
And I hope it ain't 25 years. But
that was on me. My bad.
whenever
it just went so quick. I snapped my fingers and 25 years was gone. Don't worry. I'm sorry.
That's right. It's gone by like that. But let me say this. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking that does not necessarily mean that the next time we work together will not be like starting from point A, because it will be. We're building a new creation. But in terms of the green light piece, again, it's a manifestation of a creative simpatico. One, and also Spike is smart enough to know, as a filmmaker, as a creative person, he's smart enough that he knows how to grab the accidents. He knows how to grab the organic. He knows how to keep the camera rolling. And I think that is, again, a manifestation of not only of his own relationship to his work, but his relationship to those who are working with him. So again, to your question, there are three or four moments that I can think of. The largest moment of improvisation, and trust, frankly, that's going on between director and actors and internally between the actors. The scene on the boat when the cat tries to sell me the chicken.
Right.
That was improvised and what I mean by that is we all knew what the intention of the scene was. And I don't recall Spike saying to us, y'all just improvise this scene. Those words were not spoken. What did happen is, as the scene progressed and kind of built to that crescendo of the gentleman physically putting the chicken on my arm, that which, everything that happens after that, we were all working together. And it was, I don't know, you don't stop in the moment and think, oh my God, that was wonderful. But it translates into a very affirming feeling creatively. So when we go back and we do a second, a third, and fourth take, one has a relationship to the work and one is using that as a point of departure. But
And Delroy, real quick, we got to give props to the Chicken Man.
amen. No. When I talk
Where
about
it came from, he did great.
when I talk about the actors, I'm including him.
Yeah.
You know, all of us together, right? But improv, green light. There was a green light on Crooklyn when, of sorts, a different kind of green light. It hadn't developed, but the scene between Alfred and myself when I'm at the piano. At the beginning of the day, I don't know if Spike remembers this, he cleared the set, and it was Spike, the continuity lady, and Alfred and myself. And we built the scene.
Alfred Woodard.
Alfred, did I say
I'm
Alfred?
going to put the last name, but people just know.
Oh, I'm sorry, Alfred Woodard.
Yeah.
Alfred Woodard. We built that scene because I don't even remember what was in the script. I think it may have said something like, Woody, that we have an argument. You know, I don't even remember, but it was broadly described in terms of the guts and the nuts and bolts of the scene. Spike and Alfred Woodard and myself built that scene. Green light, going back to Malcolm X. I remember being in rehearsal with Spike in the rehearsal hall, in the rehearsal room, 40 acres over in Brooklyn. And when we got to the part in the script where it said, West Indian Archie is near death, and I turned to Spike and I said, what does that mean, Spike? What's wrong with West Indian Archie? And Spike said words to the effect, I'm not sure, man, just work on it and show me something. I went away and I made the decisions that I made, and the scene is one of the pieces of work that I'm most proud of in my whole career.
And also, I want you to keep your flow, though. I'm going to put the sliding right here. So we're shooting the scene. We haven't rehearsed it. It's like 4 a.m. I'm not gonna lie. I'm trying to keep myself from falling asleep.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden, Delroy slumped over like, woo! I said, oh, you all right? You all right? I think you might have woken me up. Because that was like a 24-hour day.
Yeah, it was long. They had been working all day, literally, and at 2 a.m.
That was later.
You start at the museum, and at 2, maybe it was later, 2:30 in the morning. We now had to move the whole crew downtown to that SRO on the West Side Highway, and people were exhausted. And I didn't have a choice because I was leaving New York to go work on something else. I had to do the scene when we did it. But to your original question, the green light has evolved, right?
Right.
Fast forwarding to Bloods, when Spike calls me and we talk and we agree we want to work together, I recognize that I have to do my own work as an actor just to build, but I have a security and frankly a safety net. And Angela and I talked about this yesterday. Angela Bassett and I talked about this yesterday. There's a safety net which is cast in such a way that if things start to happen in the moment that one is genuinely, authentically feeling, you don't stop to say, oh, this will feed the scene. You just work. And
I had to learn that, though.
But you learned it.
I had to. I mean, that
No,
like.
I'm hearing you. No, but I'm hearing you. But you did learn it because the second, there are a number of moments in Bloods, but the second one I'm going to mention to you is the scene where I walk off into the jungle. And a number of there were a confluence of things happening, a coming together of elements that, as we've spoken about this in the subsequent months, it constitutes a stunning occurrence. And that was this. We had the scene as written, where I think the last section was when I called my son, he's a backstabber. Y'all do what you want with your money. My money is my money. I'm out. I got other business I got to take care of. Now, when Clark comes to me and says, you know, you listen, you crazy MF, Norm wouldn't want this. I say, yes, I got to deal with Norm. I'm pretty certain, again, not sure, but I'm pretty certain that the scene ended. I turned and walk off, and the scene is over at that point. But what happened was the elements started, the wind started kicking up, it started to spit some rain. It was the beginning of what became a major storm. And we worked all the way through it. Spike kept the camera rolling as I went off into the bush and started to feel what I was feeling and started to express on what I was feeling. Spike kept the camera rolling. The sound engineer picked it up in the moment. And you cannot imagine, maybe we did 2 or 3 takes, I'm not sure. But what I can tell you, by the end of the last take, in which Spike had captured everything that had transpired with the wind and the storm and me improvising, and I don't even want to say improvising. Paul, I continued to talk. I continued to express what I was feeling in the moment. And the filmmaker, Spike Lee, got it. And the engineer got it. And the wind. And so we all became part of this one organism, this one experience. And by the end of the scene, we were literally, when he said cut, when he finally said cut, we were running to the vans. We were running to the vans to get back to base camp because the sky opened up.
Right.
It was extraordinary.
True story.
You know, very long-winded answer, but they're examples of the green light, the security blanket, the safety net that is provided for me as an actor and other actors working with Spike. And he's right, not everybody gets the green light, which also is a very, very affirming component of one's work in the process. And again, I'm not thinking, oh, not everybody's getting this. No, I am liberated to work. And when it works the way it works in Five Bloods, as I've been saying, that's why I went to acting school. For moments like that, for experiences such as these.
And I like to add real quick, you got to earn, you know, you don't come off the.
That's
the
right.
street.
No, that's right. You
Hey!
got it. That's right. You got to earn it.
Turn it off. Hold on. There's air conditioning on in here. I mean, the heat, it's snowing. Turn the heat off.
I'm
Thank you.
gonna ask one more question before I turn it over to Jen, who's gonna help field some questions that the residents have for both of you. So Delroy, you touched on this too. Spike, you guys shot in challenging conditions. You know, rain, scorching temperatures. I understand you had a snake handler at some points. How many days did it take to shoot the film, and what was the first scene you shot?
I remember, I'm not sure how many days it was, 2.5
I don't
months.
remember the days. What was the first date? What's the first thing we shot?
The first thing that I recall shooting is walking through the paddy field.
Ah,
The 5 of us.
All
And
right.
the young Vietnamese kid is over with the oxen in the field.
Yeah, yeah.
I believe that was the first scene that we shot.
For me, it's all jumbled together. The only thing I know, you know, is divided by what we shot in Thailand and what we shot in Vietnam.
I want to say it was a little more than 2 months in Thailand, maybe getting toward 2.5 months, and almost 2 weeks in Vietnam, in Saigon.
First time I was able to, you know, go to both of those countries.
Likewise.
wow.
Wow.
Well, what an amazing experience. I'm going to toss it over to Jen. She has a couple questions from the residents. So, Jen?
So one of the residents wrote, and I have to tell you, everyone that wrote to me for questions for the both of you wanted to express that after watching it, they needed a clearing. They needed to go take a walk and really be in the space that you've provided for them. So thank you. It was a great experience.
Well, we're very, Delroy, go ahead, Delroy.
No, I'm just saying thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank
Really
you, thank
appreciate
you.
Of course. So one of the residents said, this campus is not very diverse. It is reflective of where the industry was 40, 50 years ago. Out of your entire catalog, Spike, what other of your films do you feel people from the ages of 70 up should experience like this?
My films is films in general.
Your films.
I would say with the documentaries. I would start with the first documentary I ever did, of Four Little Girls, which is about the bombing of the 16th Baptist Church, September 1963. The documentary, two documentaries about Katrina. One is called When the Levees Broke. The other is called If God is Willing, the Creek Don't Rise. I would throw Do the Right Thing in there.
Okay.
And 25th Hour. 25th Hour.
I love that movie.
And Summer Storm.
25th, that's one of my favorite movies, 25th
Right.
Hour.
So thank you, Laura, for that question. And we will get those on your closed circuit TV station sooner than later.
Thank you.
So Corinne asked, what was the triggering event that sparked this story for you that made you feel compelled to tell this? And how did the people of Vietnam respond to your filming?
We got welcomed with loving arms with the people of Vietnam, very warm. A lot of them have seen my films. But I do thank them because anytime an American comes to their country and uses the word Vietnam War, they say, oh, no, we call it the American War. So and if you're French, they're gonna say, we call it the French War. So right away, but very politely, they educate you. And when you think about it, it really makes you're an American. A lot of times, whatever, you think, the whole world revolves around the United States of America. Not the case. And when you say the Vietnam War, no. And I was happy they did that. And I had to, I really worked hard to not to say Vietnam War when I was in the presence of my Vietnamese brothers and sisters.
Yeah. Was there something that sparked your desire to tell this story? Was there a singular moment or an interaction?
Well, it wasn't a single moment. It's just the fact that a lot of my work has been to fill in parts of the American narrative that have been erased, twisted, or you could choose another word.
Expurgated, disappeared.
There you go.
Yep. Great. So the next question that I have is for Delroy from Sandy. Sandy was really moved by the firecracker scene. PTSD, the themes of greed, those really resonated with her. But that scene in particular, she felt is where everything took off. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and the filming of that scene?
That's interesting. I'm not sure that anybody has mentioned the firecracker scene being impacted in that way. What I recall is that in the bar, The Apocalypse Now, as an actor, I started feeling the first inklings of the manifestation of the PTSD when the young man comes in on crutches because I had been told that in various instances in Nam, kids are seen as the enemy because they get packed with explosives. And when the vets would want to hand them some candy or give them a treat, these kids would come and they'd explode, right? So it had been articulated to me that there's a fear and a suspicion of kids. In the bar, when the kid comes, I was aware of building that into my response. Exiting the apocalypse now, similarly, something as innocent as the kid throwing firecrackers, which he knows will terrify us, which is why he's doing it, and to get that response, I actually, to answer your question, it's moving me right now that this person reacted to that scene, because what I was connected more strongly into the night that we did that work was the kid coming at me. And again, it's affirming to know that scene, the firecracker scene, did what it was supposed to do for an audience member.
And I like the piggyback on my brother Delroy. Part of the things of this film is about bombs, explosives that did not go off 40 years ago, and there's still people are still losing legs in their lives today.
Right.
So we had a hard time to find a Vietnamese kid who had one leg, but we found him, and he was great.
He was.
And he had and that was like we were planting the seed, because that whole stuff had not even happened. So we planted a little seed about Melanie and her crew come in the film later on.
Yep. So I do have two other quick questions, and I know that we're running out of time. The first one is from one of our crew members. Marcus loved the film and asked the question about when the cutaways come in of like the people that you get that are referenced, and then you go to a still shot of those. The drive for that in the editing, what are you trying to convey to people? Are you trying to bring them back into that moment, or are you trying to educate people who would never have been aware of those people?
Well, it's really a duality, both. And I think that the more I'm working in film, the more I'm blending documentary with my feature films. And that's just that's a basic documentary move, Someone says something and you cut to it. This case, it was really, really, I would say, more leaning towards education.
Okay.
How many people saw the film, knew that the first person to die for the United States of America was a black man? Christmas addicts in the Boston Massacre. How many people ever heard of Milton Olive? 18 years old. Threw his body on a grenade to save his fellow brothers.
Yeah.
So I think that, and look, I admit, some people find that jarring, but
all right, so the other thing I will say, a lot of residents wrote and said the tribute to the Treasure Sierra Madre was clear, and they loved it.
they saw it in the theater.
Because they saw it in the theater. And
They saw it in the theater.
I wanted to say,
In a beautiful black and white.
yes. Norm Lewis is someone who has participated in helping raise money and awareness for MPTF. So it was such a joy to see him and his performance. Can you talk a little bit about those connections and what it was to work with Norm? And as a musical theater lover and an East Coaster, I grew up in New Jersey. I know him. When I see him on screen, I expect him to start singing, and this was not that side of Norm Lewis for sure.
Well, Norman is one of the greats, one of the Broadway greats, and I mean, we just run the same circles here in New York City. But when I saw him play Porgy in Porgy and Bess, he killed it. I mean, he was amazing. So
It's so hard to
Well,
stand out
let me-
against Audra McDonald. Like, Audra,
Yeah.
Norm,
Well,
Audra,
let me
Norm.
let me just say this real quick. I mean, I can't do anything without great actors. And Delroy is one of them, one of the greatest working today. And so when I see talent, you know, I make a more than mental note. It's like, boom. But the trick is that it has to be the right role. Someone could be great, but they might not be great in that role. So you gotta do I think I gotta find, I know that people are great, but the role gotta be for them. So it works. I mean, you could be a great player, but if you're on the wrong team, you know, in another sports cliche, you got to put people in position where they can do their best they can. So all that I'm saying that Noah was one of those people that I was waiting for the role where he could do the best.
He certainly did shine in the role that you put him in into Five Bloods. And as did you, Delroy. I still have to process some of the moments of that struggle and the connection with you and Chadwick at the end.
Yeah,
I mean,
can we talk about that? I mean, we don't. Daryl, are you in the clock?
No, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
We're good.
Daryl, I would like to talk to you because have you seen Ma Rainey yet?
I have not seen Ma Rainey yet.
But there's things that's so similar in, there might be some spoiler alerts, but too bad. The death scenes in both, I mean, I was shook. So, Delroy, let me ask you a question. I remember we were getting ready to shoot this scene, and the great cinematographer, Tom Siegel, we break for lunch, and we don't know where we're going to shoot the next scene. So Tom and I don't eat lunch, and we're walking around trying to find location. We found this spot that was like a couple, maybe 50 yards away from a great big waterfall. I forgot the name of the waterfall. And I remember once we found the spot, the location, we had to set up, and I saw you standing afar. And knowing you, I said, I'm not talking to him right now. I'm gonna let my brother do his thing, and I'm not calling him to the set till we are ready. And not a second, because I knew you were coming with it, and I didn't want to call to your set, and then the line ain't right or something, you gotta wait. Like, I know, forget about 25 years, I forget that. Work with you. 25 years did not erase work with you. And I knew that you were coming with it. You were like, I was telling people, leave her alone. Get away, leave her alone. I know you heard me yelling, but I was telling people, leave him. So I said to Tom, Tom, are we ready? Because I don't want to break. And then, conversely, you're over here, and Chadwick's over here. On my mother's grave, I know, excuse my language, but I know some shit's about to jump off. I said, we ready? Okay. Roll camera. I put the slate in. Delroy speaking in the camera, which he already did to the jungle. And this is a conversation with God. So it's a continuation of talking to the camera. So after we get to the end of his text, we see Delroy see something. And the camera leaves Delroy's face, goes up into the sky, into the trees, and then we find a heavenly light. This was not lit. It was a heavenly light. And so once we started the scene, I'm looking at Delroy. I don't know what Chadwick's doing because the camera's on Delroy. So we leave Delroy coming down, heavenly light. It is heavenly lit. Anyway, and then Chadwick's in his pose. I didn't know what he was gonna do. Because he didn't hit his spot after the camera was rolling.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you knew that.
No, I did not know that. I did not know
And
that.
then, and also, I know I said before, on my mother's grave, that was God's heavenly light. You may think I'm crazy,
No.
but I'm not.
No.
I was
That was
100%
God's-
sure that
that
was,
was-
I was
that was-
sure. Lit and
That was
post-production.
God's heavenly light on our brother.
That's stunning. That's
And
stunning.
that scene, Delroy, so I'm gonna shut up. Tell me about that scene, you and, we didn't rehearse that scene, did we?
No, we did not.
That scene was not rehearsed.
Here's the thing. That morning, before we did the scene with Chadwick, we shot the scene where I'm walking through the jungle, talking to the camera about what Otis has done. And
That was the same day?
the same day, man.
Man.
Same day. I'm not going to answer that. Are you okay? Can I keep talking?
Yeah.
No, here.
Okay, good. Yeah, it was the same day, home. We did that scene in the morning, and then we did the scene with Chadwick a little later. So, because Spike had given me the green light in that scene where I'm talking to the camera walking through the jungle. When I say he gave me the green light, there were it was scripted. The vast majority of that monologue was scripted, but there were some moments in there where I took creative license, and and Spike.
We had the green light.
Yeah, it was allowed in. It became part of the telling of the story. So that by the time, we did that scene in the morning, and I was already,
In your zone?
yeah, in the zone, in connection with the work. And I wanted to keep that. I didn't want to break that. So that's probably why you saw me standing
saw it.
where I was standing.
I said, leave him alone.
That's what that moment was about. But also, when I looked out of my peripheral, what I could see out of my peripheral vision, Chadwick Boseman over there. And I think he was leaning on a log, but I knew he was working. So to the extent that I was preparing to do what Spike needed me to do, and it would be followed by this interaction with Chadwick, I knew he was working. I could tell from his whole body language. Boxing analogy. I'm in my corner, not my opponent, my
Your partner.
I'm in simpatico with the person who's in his corner.
Your
and we
sparring
come-
partner.
Yeah, my
Sparring
sparring
partner.
partner, and we come together and do the work. So the moment that Spike is referring to, when he saw me standing off a distance from the set, contemplating whatever I was contemplating, it was directly left over for a continuation of the work we had done in the morning, which felt real good. And I
That was good
knew-
scheduling.
Huh?
That was good scheduling.
It totally was, because the one emotional state morphed into the emotional state that one took into the work with Chadwick. And I remember, one thing that Spike said to me, and the only thing he said to me, when I come through the underbrush with my machete and I burst through, I had taken a moment before I started speaking. And the thing he said to me was, no, I need you to keep moving. When you come through, keep moving. That was the only adjustment. But the point is, we did a number of takes and they all felt rich, and they were all being built on in small ways. All of that energy was taken into the work with Chadwick. And I knew Chadwick was right there.
But Delroy, but tell me, because let me ask you this, and I'm really try to refrain from doing this, but tell me about doing that scene with Chadwick. And have you watched, yeah, the very end, and have you watched that film, have you watched that scene since Chadwick made his transition?
I have not watched the scene since Chadwick transitioned.
It's a whole nother scene now.
Yeah. When Chadwick passed, I went back and watched. I had just recently seen Thurgood Marshall. I had seen the James Brown when it came out, but when you now and then 42, and when you, it's like going to a Temptations concert or the Isley Brothers, right? And you had no idea, when you hear all that music in one place in one evening, and your mind is blown because you knew the songs individually, but when you hear it in a concert, back to back to back to back, one's
Jackie
mind is blown all
Robinson,
over again.
James Brown, Thurgood Marshall, Black
And Jackie
Panther.
Robinson. So when you see that work, you know you know you're in the presence of somebody who, you know what, you better have your stuff together, because there's no questioning that he will have his stuff together. So that probably was another reason why I was standing off. I haven't watched the scene since Chadwick passed. But there was no denying who he was, what he was about. Empathy, the depth of his empathy, the depth of his caring for other human beings. And I saw this film that he shot at my lady worked at the Schomburg Center in New York, the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture. And Chadwick apparently worked there after my lady had left in the early 1990s. And there's a film showing him working with young acting students.
I gotta check it out.
Have you seen that, Spike?
No, I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, me either.
I gotta go. 135th Street in Lenox, soon as the library's open back up.
Yeah, man. There's a film of him. So you see, you get a real large helping. You see the depth of his empathy, the depth of his sensitivity, the depth of his craftsmanship. And then you see this footage of him giving the commencement of Howard University alma mater. So this was who that was. This is the cat, this is the young man saying, the work I want to do, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'll just say this. the trappings of celebrity seemed not to be important to him, seemed not to be as important to him as the work that he did, the work itself, and the work with other people, the work with young people. That's who that was. That's who that is. And he brings all of that humanity, all of that the depth of that sensibility to his work. And that's why the work resonates as it does.
Yeah, but you didn't answer my question though.
I didn't, did I? I forgot the question. I was
the feeling when you and Chad were doing that scene when he
But
hugged you.
but that's the thing. This is the thing, Spike. I'm not thinking about it like that. First of all, I'm Paul in that moment. And
You're right.
all I know is I don't want to have this conversation with this cat.
He's a ghost.
I'm not even thinking that. I'm not thinking that. I'm thinking this person in front of me, I want to have that conversation, man. But the irony is that's what I've needed. I've needed to have that conversation. I've needed to have that coming together to liberate me into whatever the next phase will be.
The next
So
phase.
I'm not thinking this is a ghost. I'm not thinking this is Chadwick Boseman. I'm thinking there's a person in front of me. Okay, I gotta deal with this. That's what I'm thinking. And that's the nut of the scene.
But will you agree though that not Delroy Lindo, but Paul, that Stormy Norman release took that weight off your back.
Completely.
And it was part time. And that's why I think that the way the next, because if you remember, ladies and gentlemen, if you remember, as soon as the next scene, the next cut is you digging a ditch, which comes directly from the treasure of Sierra Madre. But you're happy. You're at peace.
I'm liberated.
You're liberated. Exactly. That's the word. You know you're about to get shot. You're digging on grave, but you're okay.
That
But
wash,
here's the
the
thing.
wash of forgiveness. That
forgive.
it's just
He forgave you.
mesmerizing.
He forgave you.
Yes.
He did forgive me, but here's what's interesting about this. I have to allow the audience, whatever their responses will be. That's not at all what I'm necessarily thinking as I'm working.
So I'm just want the way I saw it. I'm
Yeah, I hear you. No, right.
But you
I have to allow the audience, you as
Yeah.
audience, that space to feel whatever you're gonna feel.
But that's
in
why I wanted to
terms of-
make. But that's why I want to make that the next, soon as that's over, you're hugging each other. You hear that? What? We hear the shovel hit that dirt.
Yeah.
But for me, you're like, I'm good. I'm good.
You know, I hope the main thing I want you guys to know from us to you is thank you for doing the work, thank you for sharing the work, and please stay safe in these unusual times that we find ourselves in.
Congratulations, and again, it means so much to the MPTF, the residents at MPTF that you took the time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Spike, we'll see you soon, man. Talk to you soon.